one of the applications for this, the graphs that we've produced, so we've plotted pH against the volume of base added. We can use these to find what indicator to use. If we use an indicator, we can work out the endpoint, and it's quite often a lot easier than using a pH probe, because you can do it fairly quickly and you don't need a lot of equipment. So in your books on page 328, we have a list of indicators and at what pH they change colour. On my graphs, I've drawn 2. You can draw 1 with me, or you can do 2 with me, and then afterwards we'll do all 4. So I've got pH, so I've got the graph for a weak acid and strong base, and I've got a weak acid and weak base. And I've marked, for me, I'll just put my equivalence points on, makes it a little bit easier for me. So what we're going to do, once you've drawn those graphs, we're going to add in some lines to indicate where the indicator changes colour. And where the indicator changes colour, we want it to be on the equivalence point. So if it's the equivalence point, we've effectively got the equivalence point and the end point having the same value. And that will give us the correct concentrations. So in my first one, I've got my blue colour. So if I look, I'm going to pick bromophenol blue. So bromophenol blue changes colour at pH 5. So what I do is I get my ruler, excuse my scale, because my scale, I didn't think about it when I wrote it, so some of it's horrible. But anyway, bromophenol blue, I've got my pen, and at pH of 5, all I'm going to do is draw a line on that graph at 5, and unfortunately it's changed, and I'm going to do a line here at 5. So I've got blue for bromophenol. So all I've done is I've drawn a line of where that bromophenol blue would change colour. It would change colour at this point here. This is not the equivalence point. So this would not work for this reaction. This here is not at the equivalence point. So this would not work either. So that bromophenol blue is not appropriate for either of these titrations. Right, so go to the next one. I've got a yellow. So we'll do methyl orange. Methyl orange, again, changes at 5. So again, hopefully you can see it. So this one is methyl orange. I know it's a poor choice of colour, but apologies. So again, pH 5, you can probably predict that it's not going to be useful, but I'm going to put my line across anyway, just to do things properly. So again, none of the lines actually go through the equivalence point. So neither of them are changing colour at the equivalence point. So we can't use that as an indicator. Right, the next one, we'll go for methyl red. So my methyl red is going to be purple. And the value for methyl red, it changes at 6. So draw my line at 6 there, and my line at 6 here. So hopefully you can see that purple line, but neither of them are going through the equivalence point. So we can't use that indicator for this reaction. I imagine if I had drawn this slightly different, this bit might be an equivalence point, but it's not. So we cannot use this purple one. We cannot use the methyl red. So our next choice is going to be in green, is phenol never spell this. Phenylene. So our fourth indicator is phenolphthalein, and phenolphthalein changes at a pH of 10. So I'm going to get my line, pH 10. So there's one, and then on the other one. So if we first look at this one, that crosses the line where it is vertical. So it crosses the line on its equivalence point. So we can use phenolphthalein for this titration, purely because the colour change is during the equivalence point. So we can use this. We can use phenolphthalein for our weak acid and strong base. If we go to our weak acid and weak base, again, this is not on the equivalence point. It's not on that vertical line. There is no vertical line for this point here, so there is actually no good indicators for a weak acid and weak base titration. So again, you would probably have to do a back titration. So what I used to do is, I think that's all of the 1, 2, 3, 4. We have got a fifth indicator in the book, but I'm not going to do it. You can do it. So I want you to have 4 graphs, 1 for each combination. You need to have 5 lines for the indicators, and you need to state which indicators are appropriate or not for each combination. And it shouldn't take you too long. Right, any questions, do ask.